The next day, welcome to final day of the Jonin exams. Please step forward when your names are displayed on the big screen. Darui said as he called for everyone's attention. The Kages, normal civilians, everyone was waiting in anticipation to see just what sort of moves would be seen today. The board started ticking away and soon the very first battle was announced. It was going to feature Naruto vs Matsuri. Our first match will be between Namikaze Naruto of Konoha vs Matsuri of Suna. Darui announced. Hoa Wind Mistress Ha. I wonder how well Gaara has taught her. I always wanted to test myself against someone who had similar elements to me. Naruto inwardly thought as he let a small smirk break out on his face. Without a word he cushioned right in front of Darui and calmly waited for his opponent to arrive. Matsuri soon came to a sliding stop as she had opted to take the longer route rather than the shorter one like Naruto had. Darui stared at the two before he brought his hand down and said, "Begin." Futon Kaze no Yaiba. Matsuri said as she made the first move and fired of a strong jutsu at Naruto, who merely sidestepped to dodge it. However, Matsuri was unperturbed by this fact and continued firing of some dangerous jutsus at Naruto. Her serious expression and keenness in attacking showed that she wanted to get this fight over as soon as possible. She knew Naruto was possibly the best fighter in the arena and needed to get everything over in a jiffy. However, the reality of the difference in their levels came crashing down on her when she felt cold steel of a blade on her neck. As soon as she felt that the Naruto in front of her simmered into nothingness, showing that it was a genjutsu. "When did you get me in a genjutsu?" She gasped out in shock. "Darling, you were under my genjutsu the moment you looked into my eyes. It's a little technique that my sensei taught, though he can do it in a much more efficient manner. Now could you please give in, the fight is over." Naruto said with a shrug. "You are right. I give." Matsuri said as she waved over to Darui, who nodded his head before he announced. Winner of the round, Naruto Namikaze from Konoha. Stands. Well, there's another thing you need to be careful about when facing him. Niji muttered. I swear that guy never gets out of tricks. Karui said from the civilian stands. Hey, you should have seen that coming. He does have the best genjutsu practitioner in the elemental nations as his sensei. He was bound to pick up more than a few tricks. Kiba said as he and the other disqualified contestants watched on. Kagebox. Why is that brat even in these exams? His level alone makes him at the very least low S ranked. Anoki grumbled at Naruto's smooth use of yet another shinobi department. That is pretty simple. He did not want to wait for a field promotion, and since the Jonin exams were around me and Tsunade-san recommended him to take said exams. I answered calmly. And how do you all that Reikage Dano? Asked Mei, her voice laced with curiosity. Well, the brat did spend the last few months with his fiancée in Kyumo. Said fiancée so happens to be my daughter. I answered, making Mei the Mizukage bob her head in agreement. Let's move on to the next round, shall we? Gaara said, getting nods of agreement from around the room. Back to the Aryan. The screen was once again in motion and then announced the next two names for the upcoming fight. The next fight will be in between Akatsuchi from IWA and Niji Hyuga from Konoha. Both of you please make way to the fighting area. Both the Jonin hopefuls disappeared in their own versions of the Shushin no Jutsu before they reappeared in the center of the field and began staring each other down. Darui signaled for the match to begin, and immediately Akatsuchi weaved through a few hand seals before clapping his hands and shouting. Earth-style earth armor jutsu. As soon as he finished her, his whole body was covered in an armor made of rock. Without wasting a moment he started attacking Niji, who gracefully dodged each jab, swipe and whatnot. What many people outside Konoha didn't know was that Niji was not your ordinary Hyuga. While he was prodigious in the clan arts, he didn't keep himself limited to that. He had completed the elemental manipulation of 2 elements and was a frequent user of both ninjutsu and genjutsu, a fact that irked Hisashi Hyuga to no end. Niji blocked another punch from Akatsuchi before he jabbed his palm into Akatsuchi's chest and shouted, "Air palm." The move caused Akatsuchi to go flying back, however he did not have time to react as Niji crossed his fingers and shouted, "Shadow clone jutsu." 2 clones appeared next to him in identical puffs of smoke. And in a burst of speed all 3 Nijis burst into motion and attacked Akatsuchi at the same time. Akatsuchi was able to block the strikes of the clones from the side but was hit with a chakra-enhanced punch that sent him flying high into the air. All 3 of the Nijis then jumped into the air before weaving through hand signs. A ray lightning then connected itself among the 3 before it shone even brighter and brighter before it left the 3 Nijis and went onto Akatsuchi's, who roared in pain as the lightning cascaded his armor and hit him head-on. The attack caused Akatsuchi to lose his consciousness. Niji landed in front of the unconscious Iwa Nin and looked down on his fallen body before saying, "Lightning release death zone." Winner by knockout, Niji Hyuga from Konoha. Darui stated as the medics took Akatsuchi up to the infirmary. Up in the contestant and normal stands. "Hey, now that's an Unyasusul Hyuga right there," Naruto said with a chuckle. "That he is," Samui said with a nod. "I never thought I would ever see a Hyuga resort to ninjutsu," Kurostuchi muttered. "And here comes the man of the hour. It seems you're as strong as you claim to be, Niji. Ninjutsu? You've got me stumped, brother," Naruto said good-naturedly as Niji climbed back up in the contestants' box. "What can I say? I am not accustomed to giving out empty statements. And the fact that my style pisses of the Hyuga elders is an even bigger plus point in my books," Niji said with a shrug. Kage box. "I'd never thought I'd see a Hyuga be so proficient with ninjutsu. I have to say, color me impressed," I said, garnering a few vacant chuckles from around the room. "Trust me, it's actually hilarious to see the Hyuga elders twitch at his very mention," Tsunade said with a smirk. "As much as I hate to admit that brat is definitely worth being called a jonin. He'll make a very good asset for your village," Anoki said with a grumble. He just couldn't believe Konoha's luck. They once again had at least 4 or 5 new possible S-ranked ninjas in their ranks. Mei on the other hand was glad to be in an alliance with Konoha and further with Kyumo. The civil war had left them drained and this alliance in itself was more than enough security for the village. Gaara however just gave out a small smirk as he was very happy to see that his friends were coming along very nicely. Back in arena. The next match will be in between Samui Yatsuki of Kyumo and Kuratsuchi from Iwa. Please make way to the field, Darui said, announcing the next and final match for the day. Both kunoichi made their way onto the fighting field and stared each other down. Simultaneously both of them nodded their heads in acknowledgments and good luck to each other before entering their open stances. Samui with her sword while Kuratsuchi readied her kunai. "Begin," Darui called out before jumping away. Both the girls charged at each other in blurs of speed before they began clashing. The sound of steel clashing could be heard as both girls battled for dominion and tried to overpower the other. This continued for a while, after which Samui got the upper hand because of her kenjutsu and began pushing Kurostuchi back. Kuratsuchi decided to create a little distance between herself and Samui and weaved through one-hand signs before whispering Earth-style rock club jutsu. Kuratsuchi then parried one of Samui's swings to the side with her kunai before she jabbed her fist, which was now coated with rocks, at Samui. Samui in a flash of speed and flexibility brought her sword forward and intercepted the jab. This did save her from some of the damage but was not enough to keep her near Kuratsuchi as she was pushed back due to the force of the punch. Both girls stared at each other before weaving through hand signs. Water-style water dragon jutsu. Samui shouted. Earth-style earth dragon jutsu. Kuratsuchi. Both the respective elemental dragons collided head-on, causing an explosion and resulted in dust floating around. Both kunoichi however ran out of said dust at the same time and began firing their jutsus at one another. Lightning-style lightning wolf. Samui called out. Fire-style grand fireball jutsu. Kuratsuchi shouted back. Water-style exploding torrents. Samui said. Earth-style earth spikes. Kuratsuchi retaliated. When both girls realized that their normal jutsus wouldn't work, both girls mentally decided to use their final attacks and end the fight. Storm release mighty storm dragon jutsu. Samui called out. Lava-style lava golem jutsu. Kuratsuchi roared out as a very loud explosion ensued. Up in the stands, Naruto had a vice grip on the rails as he had his Sharingan activated in a desperate attempt to see through the wall of smoke. When the smoke cleared itself, both kunoichi were seen on the ground unconscious. Naruto in a flash of yellow was beside Samui and had a shadow clone go to Kuratsuchi. He lifted both girls and rushed towards the infirmary, hoping to prevent any serious damage. Both of the jutsus used were borderline S rank and could have killed if they hit head-on. After a prompt response from the doctors, Naruto returned to a rather quiet field. Stands. That was rather intense. Niji commented, making Chojiro nod thoughtfully. He was glad that he didn't have to face any of the two kunoichi. That display did show that either of the matches would have been rather evenly contested on. Now he would have to focus on only one more match. But his opponents themselves would be nothing short of monsters themselves. Kage Box. I have to say I am very impressed. That was among the best fights I have ever seen. Tsunade said in an impressed tone. I agree. It is rather rare to see kunoichis with that amount of power. Mei commented in a pleased voice. Yes, it's true. But they didn't have to go that hard. I hope their injuries aren't that serious. I said with a little hint of worry in his eyes. Anoki however did not reply and kept his eyes trained onto the field stoically. In the end however it was decided to score the match as a draw and have the finals as a three-way match. Back in the field. The final match will be a three-way match between Naruto Namikaze of Konoha vs Niji Hyuga of Konoha vs Chojiro of Kiri. The match however will take place tomorrow since the stadium will require a number of improvements. Good day. Darui called out, ending the events for the day. In the competitors' box all three of the remaining competitors were locked on in a stare down. One contrasting feature was the cold look in Naruto's eyes. He was ready and was of the intention to finish the fight as soon as possible. Time skip a few hours. Samui woke up with a groan but kept her eyes closed. It took her a few minutes to remember her match against Kuratsuchi. However, that was currently at the back of her mind. Currently she was more focused on the hand that was softly caressing her head. Opening her eyes she saw Naruto laying down with her in what was a hospital bed. What happened? She asked him, her memory still slightly hazy. Your match ended in a draw. Your injuries were slightly serious, but Hokage-sama was more than happy to heal you. And now you only require a little rest to get back to full health. How are you feeling, sweetie? He finished softly. I am fine. She answered simply and looked at Naruto with a quizzical expression. Knowing the question that was on her mind, Naruto answered. The final is going to be a three-fight between me, Niji, and Chojiro. It will take place tomorrow. After that a little ceremony and then we'll go home. Naruto answered as he wrapped his hands around her. Samui allowed a small smile to come onto her face as she thought of having a home with Naruto. Yes, the thought felt amazing.